All right, so here I believe I have your hang clean motion, um, and I actually wanted to compare it to. I think it would be a little bit easier to kind of see what I'm talking about in the motion of the hang clean. Um, if I put something next to it, um, and so this is I just put one of me on one of my hang cleans a couple months ago when I actually could lift weights. Um, and just because I think some parts of there's some things that I'll even point out about myself that I need to work on, but there's some things um, that I do in this video that I want you to kind of think about or kind of think of how to kind of get that into your mind, and I'll tell you how I kind of go through it. Um, So we'll start on yours first. Okay. So I have you with the weight up, and then you go into your dip. Now think it's not bad, right? Okay. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit, see if I can still draw things. Can I? Yes, I can. Okay, cool. All right. So here your nice back, your shoulders are back, which is really good. I really like that. Um, Looks good. Okay, and then what happens is that's not what I want. Is you go into your dip and your shoulders kind of come forward, right? So I'll show you. So here is your starting point. Okay, and now you come down, and that's your dip position, and now your shoulders are a little bit forward. So on that dip, I want your shoulders to be here. Okay, so I want that dip to come straight down rather than forward. Okay, so that we might need to work on the lower back and being able, and maybe the mid back to kind of squeeze yourself to bring you back a little bit. Okay. But I mean, your shoulders are still pinned back, like in that meathead chest that I was talking about. So it's not like your shoulders are coming forward. Okay, so that's good, and I'll show you what I mean on mine. Okay, so this is my starting position. I'll zoom in a little bit as much as I can. Okay, that's as much as I can. Unfortunately, um, it's a little blurry, but so center my shoulders about here. Okay, so coming up and I go into my dip. I actually lean back a little bit. Okay. So I was kind of telling you how um, when I go into my dip, I almost feel like I almost try to lean back a little bit. Okay. And this is kind of showing what I mean. Um, Now that could be a few different reasons, like the weight. I might feel the weight pulling me forward, so I lean a little bit extra back. Um, but if anything, it should be in line with where your starting shoulders are or behind, right? One of those two is, I would say, is pretty good, especially in the hang clean, right? Because we want to end up in this back position because we want the bar as we come through. So I'll go on mine and show you. Okay. If it wants, oh no, that's yours. Oops. Okay. So here, I'm getting set. I'm getting my big breath in, and then come forward. So the bar is about here. Okay. Maybe a little bit farther. I was below the knees. Okay. But then we come back and we sweep the bar backwards. You kind of see that small motion of the barbell coming back into my hips. So say this is the line for the barbell. Okay. And so we want to see that barbell come back into our body. And then we're going to see a slight curve. Oh, no, wrong one. We're going to see a slight curve up here, but that'll be later on in the down the road. But so that's what we're trying to do, is trying to go here. Okay, keep that bar around this point until we get around the knees. Okay, which is the start of our hang clean, and then come back into our body, and that's when we're going to extend upwards. So from here, okay, you can kind of see my shoulders are kind of back at that starting point. Okay, and then that's when I'm going to extend my hips and get that bar up. And that's the hang clean. Okay. So one thing that we can do is, so in your garage, like this little stud here. Nope. There we go. So this little stud here, it doesn't have to be this one, but any one of them. You don't even need the barbell, but just kind of go over there and get into, and so you'd be, so this would be you. I'm going to draw a very good picture of you, okay, with a little smile, okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to just have your back against that stud, and you're going to dip like you did here. And what it's going to do is, I want your entire back along that stud, okay? So I think that'll be a good drill for you to kind of get that dip in that we want to work on, but then also kind of sitting back like you saw in mine, where it was, so we had here, so I picked up the weight, and now I'm in my dip position. Okay, now for me, I think I need to bend my knees more. I think my knees should be about here rather than back here. So very slightly, but I think having my knees forward a little bit more, having a little bit more dip, bend in the knees, will allow for more power when I go to extend my hips going up. Okay, so that's something for me to work on that I actually like in your video. I think the amount of dip is pretty good. Okay, so let's go back to yours. Okay, so you already established. Okay, shoulders come forward slightly, not too bad. Dip is pretty good. Okay. Now that's, oops, I didn't want mine going. Yours is actually pretty good. I would actually have you bend a little bit more. Okay. I would bend those knees a little bit more, so your knees are probably, say, around here. Okay, that's probably the center of your knee around. I would probably bring it a little bit more, probably around here. Okay. But really, from that standpoint, it's really not that bad. And being able to get that starting point a little bit more solid, like in the dip where I am here, I think that where your dip is right here and fixing your starting point will actually be pretty good. And your feet are nice and stable. I know we talked about that last week, where it's a little bit different. In at least the way a lot of people would probably give you the cue of being in the heels a little bit more. I think we talked about that, where it's, using the tripod foot as much as possible. I think that would be your best bet. But you're actually, looks pretty good. So now here, you start to bring the bar back. Okay, so we want these two things to move at the same time. Okay, it's almost like when the barbell's here and in your starting position, like um, your first pull. Okay, we want both of those things going up at the same time in the same uh, way, I guess you could say. Okay, so as you come back, okay, so what's happening um, is so this was, say your starting point was here, now you're here, okay. Um, Now what's going to happen is when that barbell starts to move like it is now you're losing that power from being out in front. So we want to use this all this area, all this distance to increase your power, right? Which will equal, these new apps are not great. Equals, no, equals increase in weight. Okay, theoretically, obviously, but that's essentially what we're trying to do. Okay, so now as you move, now and with the barbell still staying where it was, now you're decreasing that distance. So now you're here, and now we're even a little bit farther, probably around here, and now we're even a little bit farther, probably around here, and that's when the barbell really starts moving. Okay, but that's pretty good. I like that. I like that bend in the knee. I like that. That's really good. Okay. That's a pretty good let me clear that. That's pretty nice right there. That's actually pretty straight. I think that was even better than your starting position when you went to your dip initially. That is really good. I like that. Okay. And then we go into your extension. So you kind of lean forward, okay? So so this is your ending position. Okay, let me clear that. I want from here to just up. I don't want you to move forward and then go up. I just want from here, extend those hips hard. Okay, because so kind of what we were saying, yeah, last time when I was down there was um, the the force of your hip extension will cause your feet to go backwards. In a perfect world, what should happen is since your body is over here, right, you're going to extend and your feet are going to move backwards back underneath your body. That's essentially what's going to happen. So I'll show you that in mine as well. Okay, so I'm in my dip. Okay, like I said, I think I need to have my knees bent a little bit more. Um, you might also have either longer legs or you're a little bit taller than I am, so that might also be why your knees are a little bit more bent. But I still think I need to bend my knees a little bit more in there. Okay, so we go through. Okay, like I said, I'm below the knees, but for you, we're only going just above. Okay, in my video, I am going slightly below the knees. Okay, but essentially, it's a very similar movement. Okay, so I'm coming here. My shoulders are still in line with the bar, pretty much. Now you can also see that my legs are pretty straight. There might be a slight bend, so here and here. Again, I should probably be more here and down to produce more power that way. But uh, past is in the past. So, okay. So here I'm coming through. I'm bringing that to my hip. Okay. So this is where I'm going to start extending. Okay. So you can still see again that my shoulders are behind the leg, that wasn't that great. Let's see here. Are slightly behind the feet. Okay. So now my feet are going to move not far backwards, but slightly backwards. Okay. Because now they're going to catch back underneath my body. Okay. So, like I said, not a whole lot, but you could tell that now my heels are about along that line underneath my shoulders, which is about where my center of gravity is going to be. Okay. So, we can even rewind and clear that. Okay. So, like I said, it doesn't move terribly far, but far enough to go back under my center of gravity. So, that's my starting point. Okay. We'll even just draw a straight line here. Okay, so then I come through. And they come back. They kind of go to the side because that's where I go into my squat clean. But even just slightly, I'm farther back. And oh, there we go. Okay, and then slightly, I am just slightly in farther back. With my feet are farther back. Okay, so that's what I want. So from here, I want you to extend just straight up. Okay. Now, it's a little bit harder with going a little bit slower and stuff like that and not being able to just go down and go up, right? So that might be also be throwing you off. But let's check one more. I mean, the hip extension is there. I mean, that's pretty good. You're shrugging pretty good. You're right on the toes. That's all pretty good. I just want you to do this with your shoulders probably over here, around there, and go up that way. And then your feet will come back underneath and come back underneath your shoulders. Okay? That'll come in time. Okay? So let's see one more. You did. So let's do the last one. Because I think that you were starting to get fatigued and so this one is a little bit okay. So, like I said in the first one, okay, shoulders are nice and back, shoulder blade, like you're pulling your shoulders back really nice. Kind of halt there. I think you come back over a little bit more. Good. So that's not terrible. And even your upper back, that's pretty good. Okay. I would like your knees bent. So you right there, okay, I think that's pretty much kind of where your lower body is very similar to there on me. Okay, and like I said, I think my knees should be probably around. So this is probably where my center of my knee is. It should probably be a little bit more bent. I would say the same thing with you. I would bring your knee, if this is the center, probably just slightly more in front. Okay, but other than that, that's pretty darn good. Shoulders are back, nice over the bar. I like it. Okay. Clear that. Okay. One thing is to always keep head facing straight ahead. I don't know if it's just the angle, but just more of a FYI. Okay. And then same thing, you kind of start bringing the shoulders back before you bring the barbell back. And we want to kind of synchronize those a little bit more. Okay, just because we don't want to lose this distance. Okay, because this is pretty much where your shoulders are going to be, or where your starting position was. We don't want to lose this distance of power, right? Especially with you being a very strong person, you can create a lot of strength and a lot of power in that much distance. So we don't want to take anything away from that. Okay. And then same thing, maybe a slightly more in the dip. Okay. But shoulders back are good. Okay. And then you kind of do the same thing where you kind of bring your shoulders forward and then go up, where we want your feet to come back and up, and then you'll come back down. Okay. So not bad. Okay. So pretty good.